all agree on is that this world is a mess. But did you know as Christians, we have a specific responsibility in all of this? So how do we bring our best in a world that's at its worst? Jerry's going to be talking about that right now.
Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 16, he said, "Let your light so shine." And so for the next 3 weeks, that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be looking in this new series about how we as followers of Jesus can be at our best when the world is at its worst. We're going to break this into 3 parts, so next 3 weeks. So I want to encourage you to kind of follow along, ask any questions that you have, buckle your seatbelts. Okay, because we're going there, all right? So just want you to be kind of ready for what's coming. But seriously, don't be afraid to ask questions if I don't make something clear today. I will tell you this, it's the first Sunday of a 3-parter, so obviously we're not going to solve everything. It's not going to have some very emotional ending. We're going to just come to a very awkward ending, okay? So I'm just kind of warning you about that ahead of time. Made me feel better. In the first service, we had a couple. He's a communications professor, and he said, "I like the way you ended it." And I said, because I don't know if anybody else did, but he thought it was good. So anyway, so class participation. Raise your hands. No tricks. Okay. So how many of you have ever started? We're talking about starting something. How many of you have ever started on a project at your house? Some home improvement project, something like that. Okay, just about everybody. Probably a few less on this one. How many of you have ever started a club or an organization or a team? Raise your hand. Okay, all right, a little bit less. And maybe even fewer on this next one. Is there anyone here who's started a company or a business? Raise your hand. Okay, about 3 or 4. Okay, very cool. All right. Anybody started a country? No. Okay, well, good. So get us all on the same page. Can you imagine starting a country? Our country is called the United States of America. And I guess the challenge, of course, today is that we don't feel very united, do we? It feels like our nation is just torn apart, and every little thing, is something that kind of divides us. And I think that division, honestly, I think it bugs most of us. Even if you have strong feelings on things one way or the other, I think it kind of bugs most of us. It seems like everything, just no matter what it is, an issue or something comes up, and it seems like it's automatically placed on one side or the other, right? It's automatically divided. There's people that are this, people that. So I wanted to help us for the next 3 weeks kind of visualize this. So I got a couple buckets here. Interestingly enough, one is blue and one is red. And so maybe you can see where I'm headed here today, all right? So, we have this, and even though we are the United States of America, it seems like everything that happens either goes into a red bucket or a blue bucket. And immediately there's a view that divides. I told someone the other day, some of you were not around then probably or not aware, but if you remember 9/11, 2001 with the plane, and you remember for about a month or two, the country was united. Remember that? I told someone the other day, I don't know if the same thing happened today, if that would happen. I really don't. I almost think that immediately we go to our sides, And so that's what I want to talk about today, is this division that we have. And when our country, when the world is at its worst, I think believers in Jesus Christ ought to be at our best. And so we're going to talk about how to do that. So kind of bear with it. And the frustrating thing about this, it's like no matter what you think, someone may ask your opinion on something. Excuse me. Someone may ask your opinion on something, you tell them, they go, "Oh, you're red." And you say, "No, I'm not red, not 100%. I just, on this thing." Or someone asks your opinion, or they hear you over say something, and they say, "Oh, well, you're on the blue side." You go, "No, I'm not really on the blue side all the time. It's just that, in this certain thing," and people kind of line you up. So we have our buckets, and you're right or left, or you're red or blue, and that's kind of what we have. And here's the deal. I don't think anybody's really happy about that. If you talk to them, in a crowd, they may go, "Yeah, our side," but if you were to talk to them individually, they're not very happy about it. I know that most of you aren't. I mean, most normal people aren't happy about that because most normal people don't like to be divided, don't like to be placed in a box or in a segment or on a side or something like that. Normal people don't like to be pigeonholed. Normal people aren't like that. But some people, and you probably know some of them, love the division. They love the arguing. They love the fighting. And the reason is because there's a lot of money made to keep people divided. There's a lot of money to be made doing that. There's a lot of power to be preserved by keeping people thinking a certain way and being divided and being against another group of people. I mean, you guys are adults. You know this. Suspicion is profitable. All right? Division is profitable. Fear is very profitable. Because here's the thing. If you were to come to me and you could convince me that there's somebody or something that I needed to be afraid of, and if you could convince me that you would protect me from that person or thing, if I would just give you a donation or if I would just give you a vote, you know what? I'd give you a donation or I'd give you a vote. All right? Because you're going to protect me from those evil people, from all those racist Republicans and all those socialist Democrats, You're going to protect me from that. And I love it when people say all those Republicans or all those Democrats. I always like to say to them, because you've talked to every single Republican in the country, right? And so you know exactly how all of them, well, no, I haven't done that. I say, well, you only know 4, so just be quiet, Or they'll say, well, those socialist Democrats. And I'll say, oh, so you've talked to every single Democrat in the country. No, I said, just shut up. You got, 4 people that you know, and you're doing all this kind of stuff. Because the thing is, we know that that's not true, that whenever you put all them are this or all them are this, it kind of messes things up. But it's easy for us to allow ourselves to get pushed to corners, isn't it? You ever been in a thing and go, I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. We all have. But we let ourselves get pushed into corners. And the other thing, and this is kind of weird because I'm going to share my opinion with you on a couple things today. And one promise I've always made is I think what Scripture says is one thing. What I say can be something totally different. And so I always tell you, this is my opinion. That way you can take it or leave it. All right? It doesn't matter. My opinion really doesn't matter. I don't think anybody shows up here every week and says, I hope Jerry tells me his opinions on things. I don't think any of you guys watch and tune in and say, oh, good, he's going to tell me his opinions on things. I can't wait. That's not what we do. So if you are here today and you don't know me, or you're new to our church, or maybe you're tuning in for the first time, and if your summary of me, after kind of saying there's division and it shouldn't be, if your summary of me is kind of, oh, well, he's a down the middle guy, I want you to know that that's just not the case. All right? I do have some very strong political opinions, and some of them would surprise you. I'll say that. You may think you have me figured out, but you don't. Trust me. They'd surprise you just as some of yours would surprise me. And honestly, isn't that a part of the problem itself? Isn't that a part of it? I mean, and it's why we're going to talk about this today. And even though some of you are already nervous about this topic, I want you to know that I'm just getting started. So that's why I said, fasten your seatbelts earlier. Because when you took speech class in high school or in college, remember your speech teacher said, when you create the introduction to your talk, the most important thing is to get people's what? Attention, okay? So it's working, isn't it? I have your attention. So I'm going to listen to this guy for a little bit here. So the other thing that kind of bugs me about the division that's going on right now is neither side thinks that the other side is paying their fair share. Neither side, every side thinks the other side's getting away with something. They're not having to do, what we're having to do and all this. And the problem with that, the problem with saying the other side's not paying their fair share, is that leaves all of us less inclined to share because we're so divided. Well, if they're not, then I'm not. That's just a human tendency that we have. Here's the thing, all right? You can raise a lot of money on the far left. You can raise a lot of money on the far right. But you don't solve problems there ever, right? And I know this is going to bug some of you that are very blue or very red just a little bit. But not only do you not solve problems on the far left and you don't solve problems on the far right, you won't find Jesus in either of those places. And you won't find love in either of those places, okay? You're not going to find Jesus on the far left or on the far right. You're not going to love well on the far left or far right. And that's why I think it's important for me as a pastor to every once in a while just kind of wade into this subject. Because I don't want any of us to be found on the far left, and I don't want any of us to be found on the far right. And you say, well, why not? Because Jesus is not there. And because you can't love people well from there. And I understand that frustrates some of you, and I get it. And you can go ahead and formulate your email or text to me that you're going to, send me after the service, because I want you to know I read all my texts and emails after the service. And the more extreme your message is, the more likely it is that I'll message you back and say, hey, that was fascinating. I've never seen that combination of words used before to describe a pastor. So there you go. But anyway, and it may bug you, me even talking about it, and I get it, all right? But you say, Jerry, you need to take a stand. It's kind of funny to me. I mentioned this probably a couple months ago now. But obviously, what a year 2020 was. We had the pandemic hit, and we had what might not be, but what may have been the most divisive election we've ever had. I mean, it was like perfect storm here. We've had probably 2 or 3 families leave our church, and when I found out, I said, well, why did you leave? And they said, well, because you didn't come out strong enough for the candidate that we wanted you to come out for, okay, on the right. And then I talked to 2 or 3 other families, said, well, you didn't come out strong enough against or for the candidate we wanted on the left. And so I thought, I must have done okay. I got both sides mad, and it wasn't all one-sided. And people say, well, Jerry, you need to take a stand. And I want you to know I am taking a stand. I'm taking a stand in the middle. And when I say that, I've had people say, well, you're just a compromiser. You're soft. Listen, here's what I've learned, and if you haven't learned this, you need to learn it today. When somebody tells you you need to take a stand, it's because they want you to take their stand. They want you to take their stand. And if you take a stand and it's not their stand, then all of a sudden they don't want you to take a stand. They want you to be quiet and not have anything to say. So I am taking a stand. And if you stand on the far right or if you stand on the far left, you got to know that unless you're raising money or unless you're trying to be a fearmonger, you're just standing in an echo chamber. I mean, you're just talking to a group of friends who all believe the same thing you believe and see the world the same way that you do. And that's great if you're just an average person. But today, here's what I want to talk about. Let's not be average people as followers of Jesus. Let's not be everybody else does it as followers of Jesus. Let's not be that way, all right? And it's why I do my best at times to say, hey, if you're on the far left, come in, okay? And if you're on the far right, whatever, but come in. Not because I don't have an opinion, and not because I don't have standards, and not because I don't have a lot of energy around our, to help solve problems around our nation, but because I do. And here's what I found about the solutions. And you can go back in our nation's history, and we will a little bit today, and even in our most recent history. But believe it or not, problems are solved when people on the extremes come to the middle. Problems are solved when people on the extremes come to the middle. So let me just ask you a rhetorical question, all right? Everything I've said, whether you consider yourself left today or whether you consider yourself right or in between or whatever, we're adults here today. Why do we fall for this so easily? Okay, I've watched you as you've nodded your head, most of you, and agreed with everything I've said so far, pretty much. Then why do we fall for it? Why do we sit here in church and say, hey, this is most important and division is bad, and yet we'll go talk to somebody today that's real strong one side or the other, we go, yeah, and those guys and these people and all this kind of thing. Why do we do that? I mean, we should know better. We don't want our kids to act like that. But we fall for the rhetoric. Why do we do that? I mean, in the history of our country, has division ever led to a solution? Has division ever led to a solution? And I know that you may be able to get a history book out and dig in and find one time that it did, but you'll have to agree it's certainly the exception and not the rule. And this is the part that should just drive us crazy. I mean, can demonizing half of the population based on party affiliation or based on skin color or whatever we decide to divide on, can that ever bring us together? Can demonizing and criticizing half the population because of their party affiliation or the way they act or what they believe or the way somebody looks, can that ever stop the division? I mean, why don't we despise the division as much as we despise the people who are not like us? Why not do that? You see, the enemy's not the Republican Party, and the enemy's not the Democratic Party. The enemy is the division. The enemy is the division because it slows everything down. The division causes people to be hurt. The division causes people's voice to not be heard, because what happens is the pendulum swings way over here, and then it swings way over here, and all these people in the middle aren't heard. All we hear is this way over here or this way over here. All right? I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. People, they hear that you're pro-life, and they say, oh, you're for bombing abortion clinics. I don't know anybody that's pro-life that's for bombing abortion clinics. All right? So someone's on the left side, and they say, oh, well, that means you're for this. I don't know anybody that believes that. All right? But we're defined by our extremes, and that's so sad that happens. And all of the people don't get a voice in it. So let me ask you this. Why don't we decide, why don't we all just decide that the enemy's division? And again, we all know this. And if we weren't in a group, if you weren't in with that group that feels the same way you do, and someone was just talking to you one-on-one, you would say, I know it's true. The division really isn't good. Because here's what you know from your family, and here's what you know from where you work, the business you're in. If you're in sales, you know this. This is true in a variety of arenas. It's in the middle that people set aside their entitlement. It's in the middle that people lay aside their personal agenda. And they do what's best for one another, right? And they solve the problems for the good of all. In the middle, what is apparent becomes obvious. In the middle, we all agree on this. Regardless today of your political persuasion, of your religious persuasion, if you even have one. It's in the middle that we say this, and this is important. If you get nothing today, get this. What is best for people is best. Would you say that with me? What is best for people is best. One more time. What is best for people is best. It's in the middle, and we can debate what's best for people, and that's what we do. Okay, that's politics. We debate how to solve this problem. But in the middle, we can do it without dehumanizing people and saying, well, that other side, they hate you, or that other side, they're evil, this kind of thing, okay? We can disagree about what is best for people, but we all have to agree that what is best for people is best. And those solutions are found when we come together and leverage all of our resources. When we leverage, there's brilliant people on both sides. When we leverage all of our brain trust to solve the big problems that we wrestle with in our communities, in our nation, and even around the world. And it seems to me, and maybe I'm naive, it seems to me that every American ought to be able to see through this, okay? And see, well, that's just spin. That's just what they're saying to make us angry or to make us fearful or whatever. But Christians, and here's where I want to go today. But Christians, and by Christians I mean people who believe that Jesus is the Son of God, people who are serious about following and living this thing out. We, of all people, should be able to see through this division and say, this is not right. This is not what is best for people. So here's what I want to do for a couple of weeks, all right? And this is going to be uncomfortable for some of you, I know. And I understand that. But I've asked you to do this before. For just a few minutes today. We're not going to be very long. And for our time next week and our time next week, okay? And if you're new here or you're watching us for the first time, I know when I say stuff like this, it sounds a little suspicious and you've got your guard up, and I get that. And maybe you should be suspicious, okay? You don't know me yet. You get your guard up a little, that's fine. But here's what I'd like to ask everybody to do, including myself, is for the next few weeks, for about an hour on Sunday, would we be willing to take our political filter off of our face for just a few minutes? Your Republican filter, your Democratic filter, your Libertarian filter, your Librarian filter, whatever your filter is, your MSNBC, CNN, Fox News filter. Would you just take that filter off for just a few minutes with me today and next week and the week after, and just kind of set it aside? And when I'm done today, if you want to pick it up, put it back on, that's up to you, okay? But would you be willing to do that just for a few minutes every week? And just for today, and just for the next couple of Sundays, I want you to just listen. And like I said, then if you want to, pick it up and put it back on. But we've got to start somewhere with some common ground, something that we have in common. I think to move forward, you have to move forward from common ground. And one thing I think that we all appreciate, no matter what side you're on about our nation, I hope you do, is our Bill of Rights. Our Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is the collective name that we give to the first 10 amendments to the Constitution of the United States of America. As you know, the Constitution was created to protect individual liberties, to let people know what they have the freedom to do. And here's the crazy thing. We're going to find, because the founders, these guys that did this, were so amazingly smart. And I know they get a lot of grief from a lot of people today. But man, listen, they started a nation. They started a nation. And what they said even then about their work, which we're going to see in a few minutes, it's amazing how transparent they were about what they had accomplished. It's amazing how realistic. They saw the shortcomings of what they had done, even when they put it out. So the Bill of Rights, and we'll throw them up on the screen here, and these aren't in any necessary order and any of that kind of stuff. We have the freedom of speech, we have freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, the right to bear arms, the right to due process, the right to a jury trial, they can't just come in and search and seize anything they want. There's restrictions on the government on that. There shouldn't be cruel and unusual punishment, and the quartering of soldiers. These were the 10 that were there. So the Bill of Rights is all of these things. And I don't know, you see the right to bear arms? Everybody watch. I want you to see what I did here, okay? Bear arms. Okay, so see, I didn't know what to write. And here's my mind. I'm thinking, okay, I have the right to bear arms, so I wear sleeveless shirts because I have the right to bear arms. Or then if you change it to this bear arms, that means I have the right to, have the bear arms. So what happened really is I knew we were going to get too serious, and I just wanted to inject a little humor. So that's all I got today, folks. So you're dismissed. But anyway, we have all these here. So we got no cruel and unusual punishment. Someone asked me, what is the quartering of soldiers? Well, when Great Britain was there and when they were in charge, they could actually come to your house and say, hey, our soldiers need a place to stay and you need to feed us. And so one of the things the government, people did not like that. This is my house, my property. So real quick, they put that in there. And again, you say, well, that's kind of silly. That doesn't even affect us today. Yeah, but it was a big deal. And again, they were trying to protect individual rights. Okay? You have an individual right to have your home and not just let anybody come in and do what they want in your home. Now, today, if they're coming up with a new Bill of Rights, I think probably some of these might not be on there, okay? They don't fit today, but we would have different things. I was thinking we'd have free Wi-Fi. That'd be in the Bill of Rights, and free health care, free education. So seriously, our founders were so smart. And again, I believe it was because they sought God's wisdom in this that they were so smart, okay? But these guys were so smart, and they were able to think, you know what? We're not going to be around forever, and there's going to be some things come up that aren't covered by this, some things that we don't know about. And so and my history teacher, I remember he called it the kitchen sink amendment, the Ninth Amendment. If you know anything about the Ninth Amendment, it was they wanted to make sure that any other individual rights that they didn't catch in the first 10 are covered. So here's what the Ninth Amendment says. The Ninth Amendment says, big words we don't use much anymore. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage other rights retained by the people. So basically what they're saying is there's going to be some things that are going to come up. So this is not saying this is the only list. And I think, and this is just my opinion, if we were to rewrite the Ninth Amendment today, our version of it would look like this. Watch the screen. I want the right to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want, as long as it does not interfere with anyone else's rights. Okay? And a lot of you are going, that sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I want the right to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want to do it, as long as it doesn't interfere with anyone else's rights. That's the American way, right? That's why people from all around the world come to their country, because they don't have the right to do what they want. And they don't have the right to do it when they want to do it. There are places today where it's illegal for you to be doing what you're doing right now. Okay? Just sitting in the worship place where you choose to worship. They don't have some of the freedom and the rights that we have. This is what we like about our country. I'm free, and I can do this. But already, I think some of you sense where I'm going with this. This brings us to a point of tension. This brings us to a point of tension. And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today and a little more next week, really get into it heavier this week. And I think it's something that all of us know intuitively. And if not, we know it from experience. And yet it's something that the founders over 200 years ago were so dialed into. And yet it's something that is so easy to lose sight of. Okay? Listen. Rights must be coupled with responsibility or things go terribly wrong. Rights must be coupled with responsibility or things go terribly wrong. You know this if you're a parent, right? You've given your kids, as they get older, certain freedoms. You give a 15-year-old more freedom than you give a 5-year-old or a 10-year. And so as your kids, you give them certain freedoms. And if they're not responsible with those freedoms, you have to reach in and do what? You take those freedoms away, don't you? You had the ability to do, you could come in at this time, or you could do this or this, but you weren't responsible with it, so now you don't get to do that anymore for a certain period of time. Some of you, you got your driver's license when you were 16. I was one of those guys that, like from the age of 2, I couldn't wait to drive. I know a lot of guys like that. But, I mean, so, you know, September 5th, 1969, the day I turned 16 years old, 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm at the driver's license bureau. I'm first one in line. I'm getting that thing. And some of you got your driver's license and you took off in daddy's car, you took off in mama's car, or maybe your parents bought you a car and you got a speeding ticket, or you did something irresponsible. You had a freedom, but you were irresponsible. So they took the keys away, didn't they? They took the car back. True story. I got my driver's license on that Friday morning, and we were at a church then, and the church had a brand new pastor and his wife, and people used to do this kind of stuff. They wanted to impress people, so they'd invite you to their house. Now, if they want to impress you, they take you out someplace nice to dinner, you know, because they say, my food is not that good or whatever. But back then, you invited people to your house, actually, and so the new pastor and his wife, and we're making this impression on him, and, you know, I was kind of like, Mom, where'd we get this silverware? And, you know, and all this kind of stuff going on, and Mom realized there was something that she didn't get, and she said, we need this. I said, I'll run to the store and get it. So grabbed the keys to Dad's car. The store was honestly 1 mile, 1.0 miles from our house. In that 1.0 miles from our house, I got a speeding ticket. Okay? Now think about this. You say, not a big deal. No cell phones. They've sent me somewhere knowing I should be back at least within 20 minutes. Okay? And you know, the policeman, he took great joy in the fact that I was 16 and he was going to teach me everything I needed to know the rest of my driver's life, you know, the speech and everything. But like an hour later, I come back and Dad says, "What? Are you okay? What happened?" You know, he's worried about me at first. And he said, "What happened?" I said, "Well, I got a speeding ticket." He said, "We'll talk when the pastor leaves." And now, I wanted the pastor and his wife to spend the night. You know, I'd like, you can have my room. You know, here, let me move some stuff around. But they left, like, 2 hours later, after we ate and talked and all that kind of stuff. And my parents, grounded me. Can't drive. Okay, if you can't even go to the store, you guys have all heard the speech, right? It's the parent speech. Can't even go to the store, then how can I trust you to do that, So anyway, I was irresponsible with a freedom that I had. And so that freedom was taken away. And so we know that there is a combination of responsibility that goes along with freedom, that individual rights must be coupled with individual responsibility. If I give you the freedom to do something, you have to be responsible with that freedom, all right? If we don't, the whole thing doesn't work. They gave me the freedom to drive, but I wasn't responsible to follow the rules, which I had studied for the test and which I knew. I wasn't responsible. And again, we know this. Okay, rights without responsibility lead to division, and it eventually leads to anarchy. I mean, what if everybody was free to do whatever they wanted to do with no responsibility to anyone else? So theoretically, I think what we need, in addition to the Bill of Rights, is we need a Bill of Responsibilities. A Bill of Responsibilities. But this is impossible, and we'll dive deeper into this next week, because you can't legislate responsibility. Okay? I was living proof of it that day. All right? I mean, here's the rules, here's the laws, but I broke them anyway. I broke one of them. All right? You can't legislate responsibility. And yet, without individual responsibility, what's happening in our nation is what happens. We divide, and we turn towards anarchy. Everybody just doing whatever they want to do with no responsibility to anyone else. Okay? So let me wrap this up. And like I said, I'm going to leave it in an awkward place, but kind of hang on. The founders knew this. These smart guys. And like I said, I know they get a lot of grief today, but man, you really need to study these guys and see what they did. This is so amazing. I tried this in the first, who was the second president of the United States? You remember? John Adams. Good. Guys are good on that. All right? The second president of the United States. And when I read what I'm about to read that he said, you may have read this before, you may have heard it before when you were back in school, but remember who's writing this. This is the person. This is the guy that's at the epicenter of the Constitution of the United States. They're starting a country. And you know a little bit about the Constitution, a little bit about history, I get that, but it wasn't something they did overnight. I mean, this took a while to write this thing out. And there were so many times when they would read something, oh, that's not good, and they'd tear it up and throw it away. Let's rewrite it until they got it just the way they wanted. So you have the smartest guys in the nation at that time totally committed to coming up with the best document possible. And when they are finished, they are all aware of the problem. And they're not afraid to state it. And here's what John Adams said. He said, after the Constitution was finished, signed, all this, he said, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Did you read that? That's strong, isn't it? The Constitution that we have only works if people are moral, if they have a religious background, okay, for their morality. It doesn't work in any other way. It doesn't work any other way. And this is the awkward stop I said we'd have. Right here. Okay? I know some of you are going, what do I do? What do I do? Okay, so hang on. We're going to dive deeper into that, look at some other quotes next week, get into a little bit more scripture. I think what I take away from today is this issue of division. Man, we got to get to the place where we just can't do anything with division. We know that. And we as Christians are not going to have any part of it anymore. Okay? There's a way to have strong political opinions, but put God's kingdom first. And that's what I want us to take away from today. All right? Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and it is an opportunity. There are people in a lot of countries around the world that cannot get up on Sunday morning and say, I think I want to go to where I want to go to worship, or to even go to worship at all. God, there's so many freedoms that we take for granted. The ability to own a car, the ability to own a house, to have property, to have things. And God, there's forces, and I believe it's satanic, that are pulling our nation apart and causing division. And division is the enemy, not other people. So God, help us as believers, help us as followers of Jesus Christ to see the unity that Jesus wants us to have, the unity that we can have when we put him first over everything else. Father, we're thankful for Jesus today. I pray that each of us will seek out the Lord as we go through our week in our prayers, in our time of scripture reading, as we gather with people, that will put him first, that will follow him. We're thankful for all that he's done for us, and we pray this in Jesus' name. And everyone said, amen. Amen. Okay.
Here and now, light in the darkness. Here and now, hope for the hopeless. Emmanuel. Here and now, you kept your promise. Here and now, you proved you're for us. Emmanuel. Emmanuel. Miracle, a miracle, the King has come to dwell with us, Son of God, the great I am, the King has come to dwell with us, the King has come to dwell with us. The angels sing, highest of praises, the heavens ring, song of salvation, Emmanuel, Emmanuel, miracle, a miracle, the King has come to dwell with us, the Son of God, the great I am, the King has come to dwell with us, the King has come to dwell with us. Hope is alive, hope is alive, hope is alive forever. Jesus is here, Jesus is here, hope is alive forever. Hope is alive, hope is alive, hope is alive forever. Jesus is here, Jesus is here, hope is alive forever. Miracle, miracles, the King has come to dwell with us, the Son of God, the great I am. Jesus has come to dwell with us. Miracles, the miracles, the King has come to dwell with us, Son of God, the great I am. Jesus has come to dwell with us. The King has come to dwell with us. Jesus has come to dwell with us.